Morning, Katie. Morning, Val. Morning, Bruce. It's your honor.
The most important site, we usually think of a New Testament site where Jesus asked the disciples, whom do men say that I, the Son of Man, am? But the history goes much further back. We believe that this site is first of all mentioned in the book of Joshua. In Joshua chapter 11 we have the battle of Hazor, where we're going later on, so we're talking about that. But after Hazor was destroyed, there's an interesting passage that Joshua took all the land and the hills in the south country and all the land of Goshen and the valley and the plain and the mountain of Israel and the valley of the same. And from Mount Halak that goes up to Seir, even to Baal-Gad in the valley of Lebanon under Mount Hermon. And all their kings he took and smote them and slew them. So after he had destroyed Hazor, he came up to this area. The smooth mountain is the mountain where there's a crusader castle, Calat Nimrud. You can't see it from here, but it's below Hermon. It was called Baal-Gad. Now Baal is of course one of the gods which they worshipped. Baal-Gad, the Baal god of victory, was worshipped here in this place. This place has been a place of idol worship right from the beginning. When later on the Danites came here, when you talk about Dan, we later go to Tel Dan, it's actually all one same area. This was more the cultic site of Tel Dan. What did the Danites do? They couldn't worship at the tabernacle in Shiloh, so they went to the house of Micah in Ephraim. They took Jonathan, the son of Gershom, the son of not Manasseh, the son of Moses, the grandson of Moses, to be their priest. And they set up here an idol worship place with an ephod. This place has always been a place of idol worship. And it was from the time of Jesus as well, as you will see later on. There's another important history fact that took place here. After Alexander the Great died, his empire was split into four. The two major generals were Ptolemy and Antiochus, the Seleucids. They were in Syria and Ptolemies were in Egypt. In the 3rd century, say from 300 till 200 BC, the Ptolemies, the Egyptians, controlled the land of Israel. And they were good to Israel. That was the time when the Bible was translated into Greek, the Septuagint, in Alexandria, 278 or something like that. Yes? But then a major battle took place between the Seleucids, Antiochus' forces, and the Ptolemies right here. And the Ptolemies lost. And then the Seleucids took control of all of Israel, and Israel had a very bad time when Antiochus IV Epiphanes polluted the temple in Jerusalem. But a major battle took place here. Even before that, when you think of Abraham, Genesis 14, when he pursued those Kedorlaomer and all his cronies, he pursued them all the way from the Dead Sea area, where the battle took place, as we will explain later on when you go to Sodom in that area, up to Dan. Yeah, so Dan here is also the northern border of Israel. But then you come to the New Testament, and then we can read in Luke chapter, 12, and we don't exactly the chapter, that Jesus asked the disciples, whom do men say that I, the Son of Man, am? And then Peter says, thou art the Son of the living God. Okay, there's a straightforward answer, and then Jesus says, upon this rock, that is the confession of Peter, I will build my church. So the church is built not on Peter with his key in Rome, but on the confession that Jesus Christ is the Son of the living God. But the question is, you can read that, we believe that, why did Jesus ask that here? So that is the question we ask ourselves all the time. Why here? Why did he not ask it in Jerusalem? There are two reasons. Number one, as you go up there, you see that big cave there? That's one of the sources of the Jordan. 300 years ago there was a big collapse and the cave was covered over. But this is the source of the River Jordan. One of them, one of the four sources. So the water is coming out of the ground, as you see later on in Tel Dan. The River Jordan is the story of life. The name Jordan, Yarden, means the descender. Life starts coming up out of the ground, dust thou art until dust thou shalt return. You get waterfalls, it's very low now, but in springtime there's massive waterfalls and huge ones down below. It's like little children having too much power and falling off their own legs, water falling. And then you come to the Sea of Galilee, which is a kind of mature stage in life, but from then onwards, if you reach the age of 30 and beyond, it is downwards to the Dead Sea. Okay, and that's where we all end up, sooner or later. Yes. So, at the beginning of your life, make up your mind whether Jesus Christ is the Son of the living God, or do you follow this? He was a pagan ritual site dedicated to the god Pan. It's called Banias because the Arabs can't say the letter P. They don't say police, they say bolis. They don't say Panias, they say Banias. And Pan was the god of nature. Upper half of his body was human, a man, bottom half, a goat. The god of pleasure, the god of immorality. Yes? Daily life in any city, that is Panias, the god of nature. We all worship nature. Okay, so do make up your mind. Do you want to have this life? Or do you believe that I am the Son of the living God, says Jesus? So two reasons why Jesus asked that question in this place. And then he says another thing, that upon this rock, upon this confession of Peter, I will build my church. And then he says, but the gates of hell shall not prevail against us. What are the gates of hell? That's the name of that cave. Luke 12:53. Why does he say that? Because King Herod the Great built a massive temple dedicated to Caesar and to Zeus. And when they brought a sacrifice, they threw the carcass into the cave beyond. If they saw blood coming out into this water, then the sacrifice was accepted. If it didn't, then it was rejected. So chance, do I see blood or don't I see? Is my sacrifice accepted or is it not? There's no chance with the Lord Jesus Christ. If you believe and are baptized, you will be saved. Yes, there's no, so the gates of hell are just nothing compared to the surety we have in faith in the Lord Jesus Christ and in the Word of God. So the gates of hell is the name of that cave. And right next to it is a nymphaeon where the girls were dancing, partly graphical, and then you have a temple dedicated to the god Pan. So this is nature. See, lust like anything, but it caters for immorality. So make up your mind at the beginning of your life. Tell your kids, yes, you're at the beginning of the Jordan. Make up your mind. What are you going to do? Follow the God of nature, or do you follow the Lord Jesus Christ? That is, I believe, why Jesus asked the question here and not anywhere else. Okay? So we can walk up now and go to the gates of hell. I got to take you to the gates of hell.
And you want us to follow you there.
Yeah, that would be. Although you can go
Ojalá, ojalá escuchéis hoy su voz, no endurezcáis el corazón.
Where's Jonathan? He and I are going to do this.
On the way back?
Yeah. Oh man, this is wonderful. Look at all those figs over there on that tree. To just It would still be here if I hadn't killed it too much fertilizer.
Well, at least you're honest.
Hey, truth is what it is.
What's written in the sand? Well, what is supposed to be here, as you can see from the pivot here, and the method, there's a cone, usually a big cone here, and you could roll it around, and it says there on the shield place there, sand verses. Because what was written in many different languages was the confession of Peter. Engraved, this is here, so that's gone there. But it's a good place to be away from people before they go up there, to read what happened in Caesarea. Mark 16, when Jesus came into the coast of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, saying, "Whom do men say that I, the Son of Man, am?" And they say, some say John the Baptist, some Elijah, some Jeremiah, or one of the prophets. But he says unto them, "But whom say ye that I am?" And Simon Peter answered and said, "Thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God." Now it's written here in the sand, if you wrote this thing around, in English, in Spanish, in Hebrew, in Arabic, and all that. I say, it's imprinted in the sand, so it should be imprinted in your heart. So it doesn't matter if you don't see it here. And Jesus answered and said unto him, "Blessed art thou, Simon Bar-Jonah." Why Simon Bar-Jonah? Simon means to hear. Bar is son. Jonah is the word for a dove. It's type of Holy Spirit, because Jesus said, "For flesh and blood has not revealed it unto thee, but my Father which is in heaven. And I say to you that thou art Peter, and upon this rock," there's the confession which Peter made, "will I build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it." Against what? Against the rock. Peter's confession that Jesus Christ is the Son of the living God. Those are the most important things we can learn from visiting sites like these. So the gates of hell, as I said before, is I used to throw in sacrifices and chant whether you could see the blood or not, sacrifice accepted or not, but not here. On this rock I will build my church. These are my church. Okay? Believe that there's no challenge that I can have here. But it's a very important site. Let's go to the gates of hell now. Next one, I'll take you to hell.
We have a sacrificial volunteer.
You do it, Matt. You do it.
Take sacrificial volunteer.
I'll film.
Watching you hands and feet.
It's not about tough and sinewy. They wouldn't want to do that. We got something a bit more juicy here, you know. This spring chicken. So he said Caesarea Philippi.
Yeah. Oh, hold on.
I have a little lanyard attached.
Yeah, that's good. That's what I need to do.
I'm trying to record more than videos.
Want to take a picture of hell?
He comes and never rains.
Oh, that's your neighbor's gone before you, huh?
So, here's a cave then that used to be where the water came out of the ground before the rock face here collapsed. The water still goes deep underground, it comes out just below us there. But these architectural elements which you can see there belong to a beautiful temple which was built by King Herod the Great here to honor Caesar. That was called Caesarea. And Philip built that city which you just saw at the entrance of the car park. That was called Caesarea Philippi. Philip took over a fourth part of Herod's kingdom. He had this area called Trachonitis and Perea. Now you were in Perea. Did you go to Machaerus?
Yes.
Yes. So that is the palace of Philip, who had imprisoned John the Baptist there. So he ruled over that area, Perea, and also here Trachonitis. That was called Caesarea Philippi. But we also in the ancient territory of Naphtali, although this part belonged to Dan after they captured it. Okay, now if you go to the left here, to my left, your right.
Be careful, please, on these steps. What? Be very careful.
First of all, there's a beautiful reconstruction drawing here of the whole site. So if you can perhaps stand back in a wider circle so more people can see. So this is a beautiful reconstruction drawing of the site as it looked like about 2,000 years ago. So you can just see the gates of hell right here beside you, but a beautiful white temple was built there by King Herod the Great, dedicated to Caesar or to Augustus. Then next to it, you got here an area where you're standing now, the Nymphaeon, where the nymphs used to dance. You got the court of Pan and of Dan, and there are caves here where the statues were, and the niches with Hebrew with Greek inscription written on, about 3 of them. Both got the name of Pan written down in it. So a cultic site. Girls dancing, drinking of wine, do-it-you-like kind of lifestyle. And next to it was the temple of Pan, right beside it there. So you can imagine it was a very thriving cultic site of what we call immorality, and but attractive to most people. And therefore Jesus brought the disciples here to make up their mind, what lifestyle do you want to live? Basically, that's what I believe happened in this place. That's why he came here. That's why you must come here, because you won't read Matthew 16 the same again. Because you need to know what the gates of hell are to understand what this passage is talking about. You need to understand why Christ came here to ask that particular question. So Caesarea Philippi and the beginning of your life, the River Jordan, that descends to the Dead Sea. You don't realize it in the beginning, but they all end up there. Okay, so you go now a bit further. Around yourself now, at here of the area, you see the stone pavement about all that is left. Little column here where the other temple stood, dedicated to God Pan. As I said, there's niches of little images of Pan still preserved in the rock face, the limestone rock face at the foot of Mount Hermon. Yeah? And then further on there were pens where they kept the animals, some architectural elements. And that is the major message we need to learn from this particular site. You want to add something to that, Zach?
You're going to break me up for free time?
I would say so, and
okay.
You can wander around for yourself a little bit.
Okay, so I just want to, well, what we do is want to make a time. Before that, I just want to share with you a personal experience I had. I always wondered, how do you actually bring offerings to stone gods? Like, it seems so stupid to me that I can't imagine anybody really doing something like that. Well, I went off for 5 months to India, and I learned how you do it. Okay? Now, I describe a couple of experiences like that, and it brought alive this place for me. I could then really imagine what it was like. So you can see, they have the holy stones over there, they call the lingams. The guy mashes up banana, mixes in some coconut milk, they start spooning it over the head of the gods. Now the guy doesn't have, can't really chew it up, so they spoon it over, and it all's dribbling down like that. See? Or of course they take a coconut and then smash it on the rock of the idol, so that it would just sort of like, once again, be like a shampoo or something. Mm-hmm. So actually we're feeding these stone gods real food. And then they dress them up. The stone gods are dressed up with clothes, put on lipstick, put on rouge. Okay, then they parade them around. Meenakshi, very important female god. That'd be the equivalent of like, Aphrodite or in this part of the world. Actually had clothes on them, because when you find these things in excavations, they don't have clothes on. So they dress them up like little Barbie dolls. You see? Then they parade them around. If the female god should be taken at night to the chambers of the male god, let's say like Baal, give them a Baal over here. Then in the morning, the people before they go to work come and take her out of the chambers of the male god, take her back to her palace. So it's not. It's really. It's quite an animate thing going on over here. They really are bringing them offerings, many times trying to feed them, dress them up, and this is what the kind of thing that people were doing, of course, that was being challenged. This very spot over here. Now we got to I went to in Sumatra, 2 springs, and there I saw what it meant to worship the gods of the water source. Now Pan, whose statue is up there, is a god of the water source. I said, wow, this is like Pan all over again. How do you worship the god of the water source? So along come the natives. There's the water like down there. Okay, now they got their boom box with them. They put on music, really neat music. Then I noticed that they roll a joint. They get high, and now they got to get the god of the water source is high as well. So they take a twig and put it in the water, like a branch, a bamboo stick. Then they light this thing, and then they put it on top of it and turn it so the wind is blowing through it, just so the god of the water sources could get high as well. Okay? Now, I want to remind you that's not so far-fetched, because we are living, whether you know it or not, in the middle of the hash-producing area of the Middle East. Right up the belt, right?
No, there's a castle here on top, Kalat Nimrod.
Hash.
In the Arab period, the man of the mountains lived there, and he sent out assassinators. But to get them to do it, like the suicide bombers, he used to feed them hashish. So the name assassin, as they come from the hashishim. So they used to give them hashish, otherwise they wouldn't do it. That brings me to another thing. When you talk about offering, somebody asked me just when they came here, did they offer children to Moloch here? Well, no. But I believe hashish comes in there as well. I was once excavating in Jerusalem, when they're widening the road going down to Bethlehem, they found the opening to tombs. And some tombs that go back to the time of King Hezekiah and earlier, which had never been opened. You see there on the benches 3 skeletons laid out, with a water flask at the feet and a little oil lamp at the head, so they can give themselves light on the way wherever they're going. But the way they bury people, the 3 bodies were laid out, but when number 4 of the family died, they gathered the bones together and put them in a pile. So there's a big pile of bones there. That's how the Bible says, you die, you're buried, and then you get it unto your fathers. And we looked at those bones that were in a big heap down below. And among them, and the Israelis were too ashamed to publish that, but I had them in my hands, were just the knee bones and the elbow bits, the hardest bit of the body, burned. And the dating of those bones go to teenagers. So they were not babies that were burned to Moloch in the Hinnom Valley. That they were teenagers, and they must have been drugged with either hashish or wine or whatever, but it didn't happen here as far as I know, but it happened in Jerusalem, and evidence of that has been found. So the drugging and all that is all part of this worship of nature and whatever you have. Very sad state of affairs, but it happened all the time, it happens still today.
I was going to say, Leen, the recent spectrographic studies of chalices from both Israelite and Philistine excavations and some of the little temple areas have revealed 5 minor and 2 powerful hallucinogenic compounds that were being used by the priests and in these ceremonies.
Would that have a bearing on
Dreams and visions.
Why God's destroyed every plant at Sodom and Gomorrah? It mentions every plant.
It's still the hashish capital of the area.
But that one thing, one teenager who didn't take hashish was going to be sacrificed was Isaac.
Oh, that's right.
Because there was Abraham with his son going to be sacrificed. I even believe that God was able to raise him from the dead, but Isaac, if he could carry all the wood of the sacrifice himself, must have been a strapping lad and could have resisted his father if he wanted to. Yes, he wasn't drugged. I think Isaac knew full well what's happening as much as Abraham did. So there's a big contrast to the teenager worship of the Moloch cult, the very opposite as it were. But you can see there's a similar cultural background to the whole thing of the Bible, and in this country, idol worship, it pervades every sphere of life.
What about Hezekiah and Josiah, whose fathers put them through the fire to mold?
That's right. Well,
Would they have been drugged?
I don't think.
They didn't
yes.
die, but...
Yes, when you're put through the fire, you're burnt.
Yes, but
And
would they...
I think they must have been drugged too.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we would do such a screaming, terrible scene that would be too distracting. So whether it's hashish or wine or whatever, but they were teenagers, not babies.
What a powerful lesson.
And one more comment. Remember this event also, remember in reference to what's happening before and after. I think it's very important, just to where to place this event biblically. Jesus comes up here at the end of his public ministry. Okay, so he's 3 years, leaves Nazareth, goes down to the Sea of Galilee. 3 years there is around Capernaum. Then he comes up into the territory of Caesarea Philippi, which is, okay, it's the geography of that. Capernaum's to the south of us. Comes up here now, it'll take about 2 days to walk up here, 2 to 3 days. Then he turns around, he goes up to the mountain, either Mount Tabor or Mount Hermon, the Transfiguration, and he continues Jerusalem. This is why he struck you. I said, listen, couldn't he do this? And this is just to play off what Leen is saying over here. Obviously, the logical way of doing this, if you go into Jerusalem, because from here he goes to Jerusalem, I would have done this on the way to Jerusalem if possible. In other words, the point being that Jesus went totally out of his way. Either the place is wrong, and we know today it's not wrong, but Jesus goes totally out of his way in completely the wrong direction, the opposite direction. Remember, they're not doing this in an air-conditioned bus. They're doing this on foot. Okay. Look how far he went to make a point. It says something about the great teacher that Jesus was. What you're going to come to know here for the first time visitors to the land of Israel, land of the Bible, is you're going to come to know the guy, Jesus the guy, the humanity of Jesus, Jesus the rabbi. Okay, you know Jesus, the Son of God, but people are not very knowledgeable on who this person was. I think that the fact that he went way out of his way to come up here says about the great rabbi and teacher he was. He's called teacher. They would take his disciples, his students, you say, guys, you ask me a question, let's go for a hike. And a hike totally in the wrong direction, 3 days to the north, then he's got to walk all the way back, and we got mosquitoes and biting flies here, and they're not sleeping in beautiful hotels. Just to ask a question, who am I? Not extraordinary? 3 days this way, 6 days out of your way to ask, who am I? Obviously a very important issue, right, in the place. And when he says, I can imagine, when he says, upon this rock, now, in my Jewish Hebrew mind, what am I thinking when I say rock? What in the world of symbolism, Jewish symbolism today and then, when we say rock, what are we thinking about? Sur Olamim, the eternal rock, right. The rock of ages. God in the book of Psalms, my rock and my redeemer. And just to emphasize what Leen is saying, are we going to build our life on the rock of paganism, on idol worship? Or are we going to build on the solid foundation of God of Israel, who was, is, and will be? You know what Yahweh comes from the verb, Hebrew verb meaning was, is, and will be. The eternal rock, as he's called. So this rock is, everyone's looking at this rock saying, what kind of rock are we talking about? Is it Peter? Everyone has their interpretation. It's idolatry? Or is it the eternal God?
But rock is always used as a foundation. A house built everywhere in Israel is built on the rock. Right? You got rock built on the rock. You know the parable, either on sand or on the rock. The temple in Jerusalem was built on the rock, the highest top of the mountain, and on the rock the temple was built. That's why you get phrases, God is my rock and my salvation. Rocks are very important in Israel. They used to stone you to death as well.
Okay, let's make a time. So it's now
9:15.
So shall we say in 20 minutes we'll be on the bus? Is that good?
What else is there?
Okay, what is there to see? What do you want to do here? You have 2 ways to go down to the bus. Just look at your watches, everybody. In 20 minutes, 9:35 for some of you on the bus. That includes bathrooms. That includes postcards, whatever it is. You can go up this way. There are signs telling you about each of the shrines that were here, including the goats, etc. And notice the stones over here. They're red and white. They're beautiful red and white paving. Beautiful. You can go that way. It's self-explanatory. then you come down very carefully that path and goes on around. The other way you can go is up this path, for those that need a bit more morning exercise, up this path, past that Druze tomb up there. By the way, the fact that you find the Druze tomb, we don't know the Druze will go on, means that, as we always find in these holy places, you know, one layer upon the other. No, that's a holy place for the Druze, Roman period, we'll go see the Old Testament period. And then you go down the other side and come around from the bathroom side that way. So either that way, this way, I'd say for the people a bit more sporty. Okay.
Good photographers.
And then the photographers, right? Good picture. In any case, at the bus in 20 minutes. Okay.
And if you go up if you go up the little high road
I think
here,
it's not done
the
any
little-
more battery,
that
right?
Zach said this way.
We didn't charge you.
If you look on the right-hand side, thought about going to it,
As a history,
but we decided we weren't going to go higher.
this site continues for about 300 years. No, only not this particular little area. But the temple, the two temple stations.
What is that little pick called? That little finishing pick with the stone. Tooth comb. Eight, but it's eight.
It's little cone
eight combs.
So 8 tooth. Yeah.
It's not a
I don't remember how many.
curry
They use
comb.
a single. Comb. Yeah, but metal scrapers.
Well, they kept pretty consistent with the direction.
But you need to listen to the rock because you can't go against the grain. The rock has a grain. You need to follow that grain. When I first started in archaeology, so I had to break a big stone like this. And I was just a workman with a big hammer and whacking the stones with the tools. So I can do it as well. So I took a hammer and picked the next stone. And I was whacking and whacking and whacking. And nothing happened. What did I do wrong? You got to look at this stone. See, the stones natural crack. This one. If you want to break this base, this wasn't here, you just hammer it right next to it. One side, it shears off like that. Every rock is different. The fault lines, the break lines, it's a sedimentary rock. It's formed in layers. And so, if you find a stone in horizontal bedding, don't put it vertically in your wall because it will crack. It's designed to wear horizontal, this way, not the other way. So you need to be a maker. A good mason knows exactly how to handle a stone. Each stone's got its own language. You listen to this stone.
That is, isn't it? Yeah, take advantage of nature's compression.
You can. There is an exit here. Down there.
We're breaking up into two groups. As you probably heard earlier, there's a group going up the trail that goes back and by the Jews building the temple.
Filled with what?
Filled with fruit. These are berry vines. If they're anything like the ones up in British Columbia.
Can be slippery.
Mm-hmm.
But they said it's slippery.
And it sounds like a lot of it's emotion. Man, just a sales pitch. I don't mean to sound critical. It just sounds like,
We were at Jericho one time. We had a big black preacher.
oh man.
I mean to tell you, he was ripping it up.
I'm sure.
He went on for about an hour. And the whole time we were there during the summer, we could hear him all over this.
If that's not showmanship, boy, they got it down. That's showmanship. Yeah, we got them down.
That water just comes right out of the ground. I mean, that's a spring, you know. I mean, that's a major spring.
Really is.
It start right here.
And this is nothing compared to Dan. What do you see, Dan? I mean, it just creates a rolling river
Yeah.
just instantly.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Boy, that's just the source of life. It's just like a good symbol of God.
I'm the water of life.
Water of life.
And as
you know?
Moses was supposed to strike the rock, and
Yeah.
out comes the water. It's just out of nowhere.
Yeah, we got to talk about Mount Sinai, the site where you believe Mount Sinai is. It's not. I'm sure you don't think it's the traditional according to.
I don't think it's in Arabia either.
Oh, you don't. I'd like to
I
hear your
don't
take
buy
on
it.
it.
In fact, David, I saw where, who was it? Not David Noel Friedman, because he's dead. Who's the other guy?
Well, there's 63 of these different ideas from Bar Magazine. There were
Yeah.
like 63 places where people thought Mount Sinai was.
But the Bible is very specific about where it's located. I don't think we know yet which particular mountain it is, but I think we can know that it's pretty close to Egypt. It's a 3-day journey from Goshen.
Yeah, yeah,
It's no more than 60 kilometers.
right?
No, you know, maybe 40, 50 miles max from Goshen, which means it really has to be probably along the first range of mountains along the leading edge before you get from Egypt into the Sinai.
Okay, yeah.
Because remember, it says, Moses went into exile and found his way into Midian.
Right.
Well, the Midianites are nomads. Nomads don't have official boundaries. They kind of have
Sure,
an area that they traverse,
that's right.
and that includes the Sinai Peninsula.
Right.
Because you remember the Midianites, God told Moses to remember before they crossed over the Promised Land from the plains of Moab. God says, "I want you to send your army over and kill the Midianites."
Right.
And you still can't figure out why God asked him to do that, but especially since he was connected by marriage to the Midianites, he says, "Go kill the Midianites."
Yeah, it's true. What happened to his father-in-law?
And remember, they brought back women and children, and Moses says, kill them where they stand now. And that was tough.
Oh, it had to be.
And
But he also had to do it at the dancing of the
Yeah.
golden calf with
Yeah.
his own brethren.
and so they didn't want that influence. God
Right,
says,
right.
no,
Right.
you're to be pure,
Yeah, yeah.
holy unto me.
Smaller vipers or just...
But anyway, it
yeah.
says that Moses went to Midian. Then it says he grazed his flocks to the backside of the wilderness, which is, in Hebrew, there are no words for the cardinal directions. You face the rising sun, forward or in front of is east.
Okay, all right.
Behind or backside is west. Left is north,
South.
right is south.
Right.
So it says Moses grazed his flocks to the
Backside.
backside of the wilderness, which was back toward Egypt.
Okay. Yeah, that gives you a better reference.
And he goes, and then he sees the burning bush at Mount Horeb. And from Mount Sinai or Mount Horeb, you remember, he goes back and forth. If you count the times, if you read the text really carefully, count the times, the interaction between Moses and Goshen and Pharaoh and Aaron and Moses, back and forth, at least 5 times they go back and forth. Moses goes to visit Aaron and the elders of Israel.
Yep.
He goes back. Aaron goes to visit Moses at Mount Sinai. Then he goes back. Then Moses and Aaron go to visit the elders of Israel, and then to go visit Pharaoh, and they go back and forth. Sinai,
Right.
back and forth, back. Well, it must be close.
It must be.
It's just back and forth, as if it were just kind of in the neighborhood all the time.
Yeah, it does sound that way, doesn't it?
So
Yeah.
anyway,
Interesting.
I didn't come up with that. That was George Kelm's research. And when I saw that, I went, I got to go back and look at that again.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, he's
Yeah, I'll
right.
have to do that.
Oh, and when he got to Mount Sinai, God said, I want you to bring the people to worship me on this mountain. So Moses says, okay. So he goes to Egypt. He tells Pharaoh, I want you to let my people go. Here's what Yahweh says to you. Here's the message. So he's just being a mouthpiece for Yahweh.
Sure.
And he says, Yahweh says, let my people go. 3 days journey into the wilderness. To where? What is that? It's to Mount Sinai.
Yeah, that's where they were headed.
Let him go 3 days journey in the wilderness to make sacrifices to Yahweh, to make ceremonies to Yahweh. And he wasn't lying to Pharaoh.
No,
It's 3 days journey.
that's it.
He was just telling him what God told him. So how could Sinai be at the south end of St. Catherine's? That is not a 3-day journey
Yeah, no.
by any stretch of the imagination. A 3-day journey is a distance,
And nor Arabia.
not a time.
You could take a compass and
A
do
day's journey was how far a moderately equipped army could march in one day. About 20 kilometers, about 20 miles, between 20 kilometers and 20 miles.
Yeah.
So a range around 60
maximum.
miles out.
And that's moving.
Right.
Yeah, so I think you have to draw out from Goshen, you have to go out about 60 miles or so. Now that could be from the border of Egypt,
Right.
like that, but it's not very far into the Sinai wilderness.
Would you think it'd be 3 days journey from where they were? starting?
I think it was. Well, I think it was 3 days journey. I mean, if you've got a group of people that have been living here for a few hundred years,
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be the border.
we're going to
it
go
would
3
be
days journey from where
from
we
that
are.
spot.
Oh.
Yeah.
So I think it's from Goshen. So it must be fairly close in that perimeter.
Good reasoning.
So I don't
It
think we
is.
know where it is yet, but maybe God didn't want us to know, because then we
That's what I
build
was
an
thinking.
altar there.
There you go.
No.
No.
What would make him
You
think
mean like
that?
Peter playing too? Yeah. Okay.
We could sing songs
Ready?
and
Let's go.
hold hands and sing Kumbaya.
Kumbaya.
Whatever. Oh, you already turned it on? Think there's any tourists here?